eating to train at the older, and then as you move on up through the grade, you're looking at eating to perform, maybe under 20s, and then eating to win, kind of at senior level. So basically, this is something here called a performance nutrition pyramid. So basically, at the bottom, the base, the most important part is everyday diet. Then we have stuff like sports foods. So we're talking about kind of sports drinks like your Lucozade or your Powerade, maybe energy gels and certain types of bars. Then maybe you're looking at vitamins and minerals. So maybe people might take a multivitamin or Pharmaton. And then finally at the top, we're looking at supplement stuff like protein powder, creatine, caffeine, beta alanine. Now, the problem I find in sports nutrition is that people forget about the bottom, the everyday diet. And basically, they either look at the sports foods, or they look at vitamins and minerals, or they look, most people will look at supplements. Should I be taking a protein powder? What type of protein powder? Should I take creatine? Should I take caffeine? But the most important thing, like, is your everyday diet. You will get most of the benefits that you need, like 70 to 80% of the benefits from sports nutrition come from everyday diet. And then as you move on up the pyramid, you're getting kind of smaller and smaller gains. So basically at the very, very top, supplements, you're talking maybe you might get 1 or 2% of a performance benefit. But there's no point taking just focusing on supplements if you're not focusing on your everyday diet, because you can make massive gains from what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and what you eat for snacks every day. And unfortunately, that is something that people overlook when it comes to sports nutrition. They kind of don't focus on their everyday diet. They look at the more sexy stuff like the protein supplements, etc. So we're just going to go through a little bit, very basic nutrition stuff, so everyone kind of knows what I'm talking about. So the first thing we're going to mention is carbohydrates. I'm sure you've all heard of them. So when we talk about carbohydrates, we're talking what kind of foods? We're talking about bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, fruit, noodles, all those kinds of foods, porridge, oats, etc. Okay, and why do we need carbohydrates? With regard to sports nutrition, basically carbohydrates give you energy on the pitch and give you energy when you train. Now, the thing about carbohydrates is we have very limited kind of storage capacity in the body. We have, a fully grown adult might have the capacity to store roughly 500 grams of carbohydrate in their muscle and in their liver. And carbohydrate is very important for nearly all kind of sports, especially team sports. And basically, we use them exclusively for high intensity kind of efforts. So stuff like doing a hard run, maybe tracking your man, or running up the field to join an attack, making a sprint for a ball, jumping for a ball, going in for a tackle. When we're doing all those kind of movements in football, we're using carbohydrate. And the thing is, we use it up really quickly when we're working at a high intensity. So it's very important for anyone, adolescent or adult, that they fuel up before training. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're going into training, you have that 500 gram storage capacity in your body. So like you're bringing your car into the petrol station, you're filling up the tank, so that you can perform, you can do all the tough running during a game. And then afterwards, you also want to refuel. So again, it's like taking your car for a long drive. When you come back from the drive, you're going to be after burning some fuel. So basically what you want to do is then you want to make sure that you put fuel back in anticipation of, your next training session or next game. Protein, again, protein is very important in sports nutrition and in everyday nutrition. Very good for building muscle, also very good for, immune system. When you look in the mirror, everything you see in your body is made from protein: skin, hair, nails, bones, teeth, muscle, you name it, it's all made from protein. And where do we normally get protein in our diet? Well, we get it from fish, chicken, red meat, dairy, eggs, nuts, beans, etc. All those types of foods are very, very good sources of protein. And again, protein is very important for muscle. Again, help to make your bones strong, and it's very, very good for overall general health as well. And I suppose that's one thing, like as a sports nutritionist, the first thing you're worried about is the health of the athlete or the player. Because if a player is sick or they're feeling tired or they're not recovering properly, they either can't train or they're at high risk maybe of getting injured. Believe it or not, as an athlete, you also need to get fat in your diet, but we're obviously talking about more kind of healthier fats. So again, this image here shows an example of some healthy fats. Obviously, nuts and seeds, great source of fat. Other foods like avocados, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, they're all very good source of omega-3. And then other types of fat, for example, when you're cooking, stuff like rapeseed oil or olive oil. Dairy as well will be another one. So again, we need fat in our diet. If you look at any nutrition guidelines, it says up to 30% of your energy every day needs to come from fat. So again, it's something that you kind of shouldn't overlook. And again, healthy fats equals good health. So again, everything kind of builds up together. Like we said, the health of the athlete is paramount, and if they're healthy, then we can get the best out of them on the training pitch during games. So fruit and veg is a huge area I find with younger players and a lot of adults too. They don't get enough fruit or veg in their diet. We've all heard of the kind of 5 a day mantra to kind of help us to get more fruit and veg in our diet. And again, the way I would look at it, I would say they're like nature's multivitamin pills. All these vitamins and minerals that we need, iron, magnesium, zinc, vitamin C. If you eat, enough fruit and veg, fresh fruit and veg every day, you will get them in your diet. And again, like I said, the health of the athlete, very, very important. If you're sick, you can't train or you can't play. And especially, around this time with COVID-19, again, getting lots of vitamins and minerals in your diet will make sure you have a strong immune system. And like studies have been published where they've looked at younger athletes and they found that teenagers that don't eat enough fruit and veg are at a higher risk of injury. And if you get injured more often, then you can't train and then you can't play. So again, at the kind of under 14 level, so the younger level, so basically just think about it like a foundation. It's basically you're learning about food, you're developing routines, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Again, a lot of teenagers, especially when school is in, they kind of have a tendency maybe to skip breakfast or have a very small breakfast, and I'll chat about that a little bit further. Another big thing is to try out new foods. Again, in my experience, a lot of teenagers kind of have very set kinds of foods that they eat, and they kind of don't like eating stuff that they're kind of not familiar with. So I would say if there's any kind of parents listening here, encourage your child and maybe cook dinners or lunches or breakfast maybe that's kind of outside of their comfort zone, and encourage them to try and eat those. Again, eat a wide variety of foods. Again, don't be regimented. A lot of people have, again, going back to, teenagers and teenage footballers I've worked with, they have very, very limited. They eat the same breakfast every day. They eat the same lunch. They eat the same snacks. And the only thing that might vary any bit is dinner. So again, just try and eat different foods. Maybe, have 2 or 3 different breakfasts you might eat, 2 or 3 different lunches you might eat, during the week. And again, the more variety you eat, the more likely you are to get all the nutrients, the vitamins and minerals that you need in your diet. And then as well, maybe prepare lunches for school. Because again, I know a lot of adolescents, they kind of tend to maybe eat at school if there's a canteen in the school, or else they might go to the deli, nearby the school. And again, some of the kind of nutrition or food that's available there would not be of the best quality. So we say at under 14, say you've developed a bit of a routine now and you're kind of eating a wider variety of foods. So now maybe at under 16 level, we're looking at more eating to train. So this is maybe going back now more specifically to what we talked, earlier on. So the first big thing, right, is breakfast. Most important meal of the day, as we've heard before. And a big thing is don't skip breakfast any day, but especially on a training or a game day. Why is that? It's a very, very simple kind of rule in nutrition. If you eat more food, you've more energy. It's a very, very simple equation. So if you skip your breakfast, literally you're starting the day with less energy. And then if you have training later on in the day, basically your energy levels won't be as high as they could be. So by eating a good breakfast, you'll have more energy, you'll be able to perform better and keep going for longer. Hydration as well is an important thing, obviously, and it's kind of something where we don't have to worry too much about here in Ireland because of the climate. Maybe if we're living in Florida or California or somewhere like that where temperatures hit up around 30 degrees, a lot of the time, hydration would be a major thing. But again, I'll cover information about hydration later on, but it's just something to focus on at that age. Another important thing is eat a meal approximately three hours before training or a game. Again, it's just a whole energy thing. You don't want to be going into training or a game with an empty stomach, having not eaten for maybe 5 or 6 hours. 3 hours will kind of give you enough time that you can eat a good meal and it won't be uncomfortable when you're running around. Very important then, eat another meal. So when I'm talking about a meal, and I'll show you further on, we're talking about literally a meal, a plate that's got carbohydrate in it, it's got protein, and it's got vegetables, and that you have a glass of water with it as well. So again, you need to eat a meal within 2 hours of finishing training or a game as well. And again, we'll talk about that, excuse me, later on. And again, another really, really simple rule is any day you're active, eat more. Okay, why? Because you're burning more energy, so you need to replace that energy and you need to repair your muscles and you need to rehydrate. So again, if you're not training, you eat a certain amount. If you are training, you eat that amount plus more, maybe one additional extra meal or an extra 2 or 3 small snacks. And again, that will just give you energy for training and then will help you to refuel and recover afterwards. I'll also mention about preparing for a game. I'll talk about that in a short while. But from kind of training point of view, these kind of few points here, that's literally as an under 16, they're the kind of things that you need to focus on. Not skipping breakfast, eating 3 hours before training or a game, eating within 2 hours of finishing a game, eating more on a training day. And kind of if you do those, you'll be on a very good level. So again, breakfast I find with adolescents is a kind of a bit of a problem. A lot of the time people don't eat anything. If they're going to school during a weekday, they get up too late. Running out the door, grab their school bag, maybe they grab a slice of toast or something. If they do get to eat, it might be a bowl of cornflakes or Cocoa Pops or beans and toast or jam and toast. And again, okay, it's better than nothing, but it could be a little bit better. So again, what kind of stuff are you looking at? Well, basically, we're looking at stuff like, porridge. Porridge is kind of bland. A lot of people don't like it because it's got no taste. But by adding in fruit, a little bit of honey, seeds, some nuts, cinnamon, there's lots of things you can add to porridge, kind of make it more tastier. Again, protein is something, eggs, scrambled eggs, an omelette, boiled eggs, etc. And a very, very important principle is nutrition is to try and get protein in with breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And again, in my experience, most teenagers and most adults as well only get enough protein in at dinner. So they'll have their, steak or pork chops or bacon or chicken or turkey or whatever it happens to be. They might only have a bowl of cereal at breakfast time. Again, there'll be very little protein in that. And then they might have, I don't know, a ham sandwich or something like that for lunch. Again, very, very little ham. So very important kind of principle as well is to get plenty of protein in breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And that will play a big role on your body composition, kind of how much muscle, how much body fat you have. And obviously it will play a huge role in your health as well, how strong your bones are, how strong your immune system is too. Again, there's some other examples here. So smoothies might be a good option. Again, you get your fruit in there. You can also throw in some veg, maybe a bit of spinach. The ones on the bottom middle there are kind of parfaits. They're actually really nice. They're just kind of layers of kind of yogurt and fruit and muesli. And with a lot of these, you can actually prepare them the night before. So if either you or your son or daughter are in a rush, they're in the fridge, you can grab them as you go out the door and you can eat them in the bus or the car as you're going to school. Again, yogurt would be a great way to start the day. And again, obviously a piece of fruit. And the kind of goal would be to maybe have a little bit of each. Again, get your healthy fats, get your protein and get your carbohydrates in while trying to get fruit and vegetables in as well. And I'm going to share some resources with you or show you where to access some resources later on. And again, they have loads of these kind of recipes on there. Again, like I said, if you're in a hurry, there are lots of kind of options you can do where you can prepare them the night before, leave them in the fridge. So basically, there's no prep time in the morning. So if you're in a rush, you can just grab something out the door and you're good to go. Another good one is overnight oats. So basically you can mix kind of milk, yogurt and porridge oats, leave them overnight in the fridge, and then they're really nice and creamy the following morning. And again, you can put fruit, seeds, nuts, etc. In with these. And again, very nutritious and healthy start to the day. Again, I mentioned the parfaits. Again, something as simple like a fruit salad. Literally some fruit and some yogurt on top of it. What you can do is you can use stuff called mason jars. These are these little jars with lids on them. You can get them in most hardware stores. Okay, I live in Listowel. I've seen them in like McKenna's and O'Carroll's. I've seen them in TK Maxx. I've seen them in Guineas in Tralee. So again, you can get them anywhere, and they've got a little lid on them, so it kind of keeps the food fresh. If you don't have a mason jar, literally something like an empty jam jar or just a food container, a small little lunchbox, would work quite okay as well. And like I said, you just prep them the night before. Most of these will take you 5 minutes. They're really, really quick. They're not very complicated at all, but they're very, very nutritious. Okay, big thing might be school. So again, like I mentioned earlier on, do you or does your child or players, do they bring their lunch to school, or do they go to the local deli or the canteen? Again, canteens can vary the types of food that are available in schools. Some can be very good, some only okay. Again, I would say, if you want to take your nutrition seriously, you should kind of bring your lunch with you, because the big thing about nutrition is to try and control what you eat. If you're eating out or if you're eating in canteens, food that other people have prepared, then you're kind of losing control. You don't know what ingredients, you don't know how much protein, you don't know what to make the gravy or the sauce with. Whereas if you bring your lunch with you, you're taking control of it. Again, just maybe look out for snacks. So again, I know from my experience, a lot of these cereal bars, Nutri-Grain bars and stuff like that are pretty popular. Again, they're not the worst, but they're not the best either. I would also suggest bringing a kind of water bottle and getting the habit of doing it. You can get these reusable water bottles, literally 1 litre or 2 litres. You just fill it with you, bring it with you to school. Keep it in your bag, and literally between classes, just sip away on it. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier on, if you're active, you eat more. So there could be a scenario where someone has PE and then maybe later on that day they've like football training or they might have a game. So again, if that scenario ever occurred, I would tell that person to bring more food with them to school, or else try maybe if they have enough time between school finishing and training beginning, then maybe have a dinner or a large snack at home. And again, another very, very simple kind of phrase from sports nutrition is you move more, eat more. Just always remember that. If you're moving more, then you're burning more energy and you need to replace it. Again, like I said, if you're training after school, then try and eat at dinner. Now, some people might find that difficult. What I'd say in that case is, if you find it difficult to eat close to training, then simple remedy would be have a bigger breakfast, bigger lunch, and then maybe smaller meal or snack before training. So that way you front load your energy earlier in the day and you've a lot more time to digest it. So big thing then, so imagine we have a game day. Big thing with game day is literally carbohydrates. So again, going back to one of the very first slides, we have limited carbohydrate stores. We have maybe 500 grams of carbohydrates, ability to store it in our bodies. So imagine you've had a few training sessions during the week and now you're coming up to a big game. Well, if you haven't refueled properly after those training sessions during the week, chances are that maybe your fuel stores are low. You might only have 250 or 300 grams of carbohydrate if you haven't been, eating properly. So the big goal of the day before the game is to eat more carbohydrates for the simple reason that you're trying to fuel up your body. And maybe a lot of people think that it's just a case of having maybe a big plate of pasta or a big feed of potatoes for dinner and that's your job done. Generally not. You should kind of focus on breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks just to kind of get some more carbohydrates in just to make sure you're fueled up and you have plenty of energy. And obviously hydration as well is very important as well the day before a game. So again, just going back to training or a game day. So again, like we said, never skip your breakfast. Again, 8 or 9 o'clock. Even if you're having an early training session, and I know some teams might be training 9, half 9, 10, half 10, which is pretty early in the morning. You might not be able to eat a big breakfast, but just get something in regardless. It could be just maybe a few slices of toast and a glass of orange juice. If that's all you can handle, that's fine. But all I'm warning you is kind of don't go straight to training without having eaten early in the morning because again you'll be tired, you'll be fatigued, you'll be a little bit sleepy and you won't be at your best. And again, depending on the game day, generally the rule for game day is to work backwards in 3-hour blocks. So we just say, for example, you have a throw-in at 3 o'clock, for example. Well, then you would have your lunch at maybe half 11 or 12 o'clock, your pre-game meal. And then you might have your breakfast at half 8 or 9 o'clock. So literally it's always kind of 3-hour blocks backwards. And by doing that, you're kind of eating at regular intervals and you're going to be sure that you have enough energy on board and hydration again as well. And we'll chat about that this slide here. So again, like I said, use a reusable water bottle. So again, you can get them again like in more shops, environmentally friendly as well. So you're not kind of throwing away a lot of plastic. A couple of simple rules as well as any time you eat food, whether it's like a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack, drink a glass of water if you can. Reason for that is your body absorbs the water better on a full or on a stomach with food in it or on a full stomach versus an empty stomach because there's kind of electrolytes in food and they help with water absorption. So always drink a glass of water when you eat something, and again that will help you with hydration. There's some people out there maybe that don't like kind of plain water, they find it boring or they just don't like it. So again, it's okay maybe add a little bit of my wadi or ribena or something like that to the water if it means that someone is going to actually drink more of it. Also, to remember that lots of foods, for example, bananas have very high water content, potatoes have very high water content too. So, again, you mightn't be aware of it, but if you're eating bananas and potatoes, you're actually helping with your hydration as well. And again, the big thing for hydration signs are one is thirst, and then urine color, urine volume as well. So if you go to the bathroom and you pass a little, very small amount of urine, or the urine is very, very dark yellow or kind of brown in color, then you're dehydrated, then you just need to start drinking straight away. But if you follow the guidelines there, drink a glass of water every time you eat, you won't ever get to that state. The only time you might get to that state is maybe after training, after sweating a lot. But if you're not training and you're drinking water regularly, then you shouldn't get to that state. So this is a very good one that I tell everyone. A lot of people talk about recovery or recovery from training or I recovered well. So basically the 4 hours of recovery, and that's after maybe, depending on the age, if you're going to the gym, maybe for training, or if it's recovering after a game. Again, very, very simple rules. Rehydration with fluid. Again, you're after sweating when you're training or playing. So again, you need to replace that as part of recovery, replacing the fluid you're after losing. Like we mentioned earlier, you want to refuel the carbohydrate that you're after burning when you're running around on the pitch. You want to repair your muscles, and you do that by eating protein. Again, that's just literally your regular dinner if you think about it. And this is something that is very, very important as well for young people. Rest, and adults as well. Teenagers should be getting kind of maybe between 8 to 10 hours sleep every night. And again, your body actually does most of its recovering, so it's repairing stuff and it's getting the body right again after training. And a lot of that, or most of that, actually happens when you sleep, when your body's kind of powered down. And if you're getting less than that, if you're up late at night and you're on your phone or you're watching Netflix or whatever, and your sleep is disrupted and you're not getting enough sleep, that will definitely have an impact on your ability to recover. And getting lots of sleep will definitely improve your performance. Again, it's not sexy. It's very, very straightforward. All you have to do is go to bed and sleep. But it is one of the best things you can do as an athlete, and it will really, really improve your fitness and help with your performance. So again, that's just a very, very simple example of what a plate might look like. And again, I suppose being Irish, we kind of tend to load on the carbohydrates, and maybe, especially again, teenagers maybe not eat enough of their vegetables. But again, this is what your plate should look like. Carbohydrates generally will depend on how active you are. So if you have a heavy training day, or maybe you have PE and then you have training in the evening, you will have a lot more carbohydrates on. If you are maybe just a rest day and you're not really doing anything in particular, then you'll have less carbohydrates because you've burned less carbohydrates. You should always get a nice big chunk of lean protein. And again, as a rule of thumb, it should be roughly, for protein, should be the size of your palm. And then vegetables, again, that's somewhere, like I mentioned before, that kind of teenagers and adolescents and some adults as well maybe are not great at. But get plenty of vegetables on your plate too. And then we have a nice cool glass of water there to help with hydration. Now, one thing we'll see with teenagers, going to go through growth spurts. I was watching a documentary there about Dennis Rodman. Some of you might be watching the series on Netflix about Michael Jordan and the Bulls. And you might have come across Dennis Rodman in one of the episodes. So I watched a documentary about him there. When he was, I don't know, was 18 or 19, he grew something like 9 inches in about 4 or 5 months. So again, it is possible, whatever height you are now, by the end of the summer, you could be 2, 3, 4 inches taller. Okay. And that's called a growth spurt. Okay, and what will happen during a growth spurt? Your appetite will increase. Your appetite will increase because you're growing, because you need extra energy to build muscle, build bone, etc. And I suppose all I'll say to you there is you are going to be hungry. And again, I know parents will be saying stuff like, I can't get him or her out of the fridge. They're always eating. And I suppose that there's nothing that can be done about it. It's because you're growing. That's why your appetite is increased and you're hungry all the time. But I suppose it's just to make sure you try as much as possible to eat nutritious food. Now, I'm just going to address here maybe a couple of specific points for teenagers. First one is vitamin D. So vitamin D is very important for health and performance as well. And there's actually some studies that have come out literally in the last couple of weeks with regards COVID-19, and it's people that have higher basically vitamin D, higher vitamin D levels seems to have a more protective effect. People that have higher vitamin D levels aren't as affected as badly by COVID-19 versus people where vitamin D levels are lower. Vitamin D is actually kind of hard to get in food. Naturally, food is low in vitamin D. It's kind of hard to get enough unless you kind of get fortified. Sometimes you can get vitamin D fortified milk. But the best way to get vitamin D is sunshine. It's called a sunshine vitamin, and basically, our skin makes it on exposure to sunlight. During the winter months, long dark evenings, we're indoors a lot, we're covered up, there's not much sunshine. In Ireland, most people would probably be vitamin D deficient. That's kind of from the end of October up to March. Once you kind of get out of March and we're kind of mid-May now, the sun is high enough, the weather is kind of warm enough that we can go out in shorts and t-shirts, we can get some sunshine, and basically we will get enough vitamin D that way. And literally you only need to get a very, very short amount of exposure. 15 to 20 minutes of exposure wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt will be enough for your body to start making vitamin D. And literally, even if you are deficient, within a couple of weeks, your vitamin D levels will be back up to normal again. And again, like we said, it's very important for bone growth, for health and performance, and especially for teenagers. Their bones are growing, so we need lots of vitamin D to make our bones strong. So literally, all you have to do is go out in the sunshine. You could be going out, maybe practicing your skills, kicking a football, or doing a little bit of training. Again, that's your vitamin D sorted there. Again, calcium is very important for teenagers. Again, we all know calcium is very important for bone growth and bone health. Again, we can get it in dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, all those kinds of foods. And we can also, if there's anyone, maybe there might be people who are lactose intolerant, you can get it from lots of other food sources as well: nuts, beans, fish, vegetables, meat. And this is where we come back to talking about eating a wide variety of foods. Again, if you're eating a wide variety of foods and you're eating peas one day and you have an orange another day and you have broccoli another day, again, you're getting lots of different nutrients in your body, which will keep you really healthy. Iron is very important as well, and it's very important as well for teenage girls due to menstruation. And again, obviously, we know red meat. The best source of iron is kind of heme iron, which you find in meat, especially kind of red meat. But again, maybe there's people out there who might be, vegetarians, or maybe think, I don't eat red meat for whatever reason. You can get iron as well, again, in lots of different types of foods there: beans, peas and lentils, kind of green leafy veg, olives, porridge oats, mushrooms, potatoes. So again, you can get it from lots and lots of different sources. Okay, one thing I really wanted to mention now is regards social media. And again, there is a lot of misinformation out there on social media regarding diets, regarding foods. There's a lot of people on platforms like Instagram, kind of fitness models, and they're trying to sell you a particular lifestyle. And maybe this person has like a personal chef, and maybe they have stylists and a personal trainer. Be very, very, very careful. about the nutrition information you come across on the internet, because just because someone posts something doesn't mean it's true. Okay. And there are lots of documentaries as well. There's one called Game Changers, for example, which some of you might have seen. And again, some of the information is factual, some is inaccurate. Um, so just be very, very, very careful with regards where you get your nutrition information from. Don't do anything rash just because someone maybe you admire does eats a particular way or follows a particular diet. That doesn't mean it will work for you. So just be very careful about social media. And like, where should you get your information from? Well, you should be getting your information maybe from your coaches. If you have a fitness coach, for example, there's Jason McGann there on the left. You might have, if you're with development squad, you might have a fitness coach. You might even have a nutritionist working with you, maybe if you're involved with the minors. But I would say get your information from people who are reputable and kind of know what they're talking about, and not some random person on the internet. And I know that Kerry, GAA are kind of looking to put together kind of an education package for kind of coaches, so that if there's any coaches listening, that we can feed the correct information to coaches. And then because coaches come in contact with their athletes every training session, then the coaches know what to tell the players to do. And if the player has a query, the coach might be able to answer it for them. Now, just a few, I'm nearly finished now, so just a few specific things about COVID-19. So kind of everyone's life has been thrown up in the air. We're kind of physically distancing. We're spending more time at home. Things are very strange and weird. So kind of what can we do? So massive thing is a regular routine. So I know myself, for the first week or two, my routine went out the window. I was staying up really late at 1 or 2 o'clock. I was watching American and TV news to see what's kind of happening in the UK and America. I was getting up later. I was like eating my first meal of the day at maybe 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the day, whereas normally I would have eaten it at like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning because I was going to work. So I suppose, depending on, I've got back into a regular routine now, and I hope most of us have. But I would just say, if at all possible, try and stick to the routine that you had. Sorry, go back there. Try and stick to the routine you had when you were at school. Try and get up roughly the same time. Make sure you eat your breakfast, by about maybe 9 o'clock. Have your lunch at about 12 or 1 o'clock. Have your dinner around, 4, 5 or 6 o'clock, whatever it happens to be. But just try and get back into a routine, because your body loves a routine. And if you kind of go out your normal routine, then you'll kind of feel tireder and sluggish, and it can have an impact on your mental health as well. Another important thing as well is just to get outdoors. Obviously, I mentioned sunshine for vitamin D. But again, just going out in the morning, getting a bit of sunshine when you get up, go out for a walk or go out into the garden, kick the football, go for a walk down the road, even just for 15, 20 minutes. Doing something like that just kind of sets your body clock, so you'll have a little bit more energy throughout the day. Obviously, very important as well that we kind of don't forget that we need to exercise. Again, the temptation might be there to kind of sit around a lot. Maybe you have distractions like Netflix, or maybe you've a games console, an Xbox or something, and you might be tempted to play that. But get out more regularly. The Kerry GAA have this app, Ripped, that everyone has access to, and I know they're putting kind of free training programs up there, and a lot of the training programs, few that I've seen, are body weight. So again, you don't need any equipment or anything like that. You can go for a run, you can go for a cycle, stuff like that. Very, very important for physical and mental health. And maybe just with regards food, I would say maybe a bit more fruit and vegetables, just to keep our immune system very healthy. Again, try to get that protein in with breakfast, lunch and dinner. It'll be very good for your immune system. because we're maybe not as active as we would have been previously. Now everyone is different. Maybe some people are active, maybe some people are less active, but maybe just watch out for the carbohydrates and in particular the treats. Sometimes we eat when we're bored, and probably a lot of people are bored now because there's not a lot to do. So just be kind of careful that you're not eating, bars of chocolate or soft drinks or whatever like that. And again, obviously, just focus on hydration as well, like we mentioned, drinking water regularly. Now, the big thing I would see for any kind of young people listening in today is, if you want to have one project, work on something that would benefit your football, I would say work on cooking. Okay, so summer is around the corner. Another 2 or 3 weeks and school's going to be finished, whatever kind of school you're doing at the moment. You're going to have 3 months, probably not football training, ability to hang out with your friends is probably limited to very little sports on the TV. We were looking forward to, the football championship, the hurling championship this summer. It looks like it's not going to happen, so we're going to have a lot more free time. So I would say focus on cooking. Why? A couple of reasons. First is you control what you eat. When you prepare your own food, you're controlling the ingredients, and it's the ingredients that's the most important thing. High quality ingredients. Suggestion I would make, if you're not very good at cooking or you have never cooked a thing in your life, I would say start off with something really simple like your overnight oats or your parfait. Basically, they don't require any cooking. They're just mix them up and they're done. Okay, so it's very, very simple. You can't burn anything. All you might need is a digital scale just to maybe measure quantities, and you're good to go. If you get a little bit confident then you might actually cook something. So something simple like porridge. Again, maybe some of you can do it already. Or an omelette. Omelettes are very good because you can add in vegetables. It's a great way to get protein and some vegetables in the morning. And again, they're really, really simple. And again, I suppose a bit of advice I would give is it's the same as anything. It's like riding a bicycle. When someone first starts riding a bicycle, they might fall off a few times. Then they get the hang of it and they never look back. And it's the same with cooking. A lot of us are afraid of cooking. We're afraid we're going to burn stuff. We're afraid it's not going to taste nice. But with practice, you will be cooking really, really good food. And I suppose another little tip I would give you is when you are cooking, unless you're doing something like a stir fry or a steak, just put the heat on medium. A lot of people, when they start cooking, they kind of put the heat up really high. And when you put the heat up really high, that means you're definitely going to burn something. So just go heat medium. That's always a good way to go to start off. And then if you need a bit more heat, you can add a little bit more. But start around the middle. Again, nutrition is all about the quality of the ingredients that you eat. And again, when you cook, you control the ingredients that are going into your meals and the food that you eat. Finally, then college, might be a long time away for a lot of you, but at some stage, you're going to be moving out of home. You're not going to have maybe mom or dad cooking, your dinners and your lunches and your breakfast. You are going to have to fend for yourself, and the shock will be a lot less if you are going to college and you have 2 or 3 breakfasts, 2 or 3 lunches, and a few dinners that you can cook to help you to adjust. Believe me as well, in college, you will save a lot more money by maybe cooking your own food and preparing your own food and bringing lunches and stuff like that, rather than, eating out, eating canteens or ordering pizzas in the evening. You save a lot of money, and you'll be eating much better, but better quality food. Now here are just some resources. I've sent these links on to Column. So Column, if you have them there now, maybe you could put them up on the chat if that's possible. So just the first one is self-promotion here. I've got my own kind of YouTube channel now. I have maybe I don't know, maybe 15 recipes on it at the moment. So the overnight oats are in there. Did I mention the parfait is in there? Omelette is in there, porridge is in there, so there's kind of enough in there to kind of get anyone started. All the video clips are really short. They're about maybe a minute to 2 minutes long, nothing longer than probably 2 minutes. And for most of the recipes in the kind of information box under the video, the recipe should be in there. There's also another one there from the IRFU. They have their own kind of cooking channel. And again, it's just a series of videos. Um, lots of different recipes in there, so you can have a look through those. The English Institute of Sport also has a very good kind of page, Nutrition Hub, where they have lots of recipes in there. And like my favorite probably website is BBC Good Food. And basically they have absolutely thousands of recipes in there, and you can grade them from, easy to make to medium to hard, or how long they take. Any of the ones that I've tried are like really, really tasty. They're really good. So I'd highly recommend that one as well. And then there's another very good, there's a good book there. Again, you might be familiar with Derval O'Rourke. I think she's on Ireland's Fittest Family. And she's 2 books out now. Food for the Fast Lane. The one I have is her first book. It's a really good book again. She was an Olympic athlete. She has her own business now, kind of as a nutritionist and trainer. And recipes are really, really nice and very nutritious. Most of them are very, very easy to make. So, that book will cost about €10. I'm sure a lot of you might have it already at home. So again, maybe if you do, just have a flick through it. It's really good. So I suppose just the take-home message for any kind of younger people that are watching, again, just to try new foods, try new meals, get cooking, and maybe just set yourself a little goal, maybe twice a week. Okay, you can start off small, or even once a week. Eat some meal or eat a food that you haven't eaten before. And one little tip I'll give you as well is just to, if you don't like it the first time, maybe eat it a second time, eat it a third time. And what you'll find is that your kind of taste buds will change. You might eat a food at the first time, or a meal, and think, this is horrible, I don't like it. You might eat it a second time and think, actually it's not okay. And then you might eat it a third time and actually go, God, this is actually really nice. So just kind of be persistent, and don't kind of give up and say after the first go, I don't like this, I'm never going to eat it again. Just bear with it, and believe me, your kind of taste buds will change over time. Okay, that's it basically. If anyone has any queries, I know now we're going to maybe take some questions. If anyone has any queries, you can I'd say the best bet would be to email me. That's my email address there. You could text me as well, or WhatsApp me. I'm actually kind of busy at the moment with school, but nearly finished. I'm correcting lots of assignments and stuff, but nearly finished. So I mightn't be able to reply to you immediately, but definitely maybe over the weekend or next week, I definitely will have the time. I'm also on Twitter there at Metabolize. And then I also have, like I said, Facebook and YouTube. And if you're on any of those, you can just Google or search for Metabolize Sports Nutrition, and you should find me. Okay, John, so that's me finished. So you can fire.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah.
Tomas here, Kevin.
Hi, Tomas.
How are you? Geez, that was excellent, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it, and found it very informative altogether. I suppose tonight we had a lot of our squad players logged in as well, Kevin.
Brilliant.
And I'm sure that would be, they'll find that very beneficial to those guys going forward. I suppose we had a few questions as well. I suppose they came in before tonight's presentation. I suppose we got nothing through the chat tonight. I suppose there was a lot of young guys who were shy, but we got a few of them in before the presentation. So just 3 questions. What should you eat before and after training, and why?
Yeah, so I suppose the big one there is, if you think of like the function of food. So you have your carbohydrates give you energy. Your protein helps to build muscle and keep you healthy. And then obviously your fluid helps to keep you hydrated. So again, your goal when you train, you want to make sure that you have lots of energy and that you can think clearly, and you can concentrate and you can make good decisions. If you're out on the pitch and you're low in energy and your mind is a bit fuzzy, which it might be if you haven't eaten in a long time, your coach will notice, and again, it could jeopardize your position on the team or ability to get on the team or stay on the team if you're on it already. So again, like we said, carbohydrates are very, very important before and after training. And again, like most people eat carbohydrates with every meal anyway. It's just to make sure that you don't go a long period of time, maybe 5 or 6 hours between your last meal and training or a game. And then, like we said, the 4 hours of